All right, so today's thank you video has to do with somebody called Slipperman. I believe his real name is Tim Gilles. I am very sorry if I got your name wrong pronouncing it. So there was this forum called the Womb Forums that I was on almost 10 years ago. And there was this Mixerman, Aardvark, and the Slipperman radio show, or Mixerman, Slipperman, and Aardvark radio show. And there was one recording engineer who was on it named Slipperman. And I was listening to this radio show when I was 14 or 15 or 16 years old. I remember I'd be riding my bike for exercise, or I'd just be riding my bike to clear my day, and I wound up putting this on my crappy $20 CD player, MP3 player. I'd actually burn the MP3 of the radio show to CD, and I would ride my bike listening to it. And he was a real character. Slipperman was a real character, and there were a lot of things that you said that that I really didn't think about at the time, in terms of what is a real professional? How do you deal with difficult situations? How do you deal with clients? Slipperman taught me that at the end of the day, you're responsible for a client's happiness. So even if people don't like what you do to get there, you realize that whatever they say they want right now, they are going to hold you accountable if something sucks. So that same person, that same guitar player that's pissed off that you're taking an extra 5 minutes to try a different microphone, that same guitar player that's pissed off that you're going to go out there into the studio again to move the microphone from here to here, the same guy that's pissed off at all this, he's the guy that's never ever going to fucking let it go that his record didn't sound the way that he wanted it to sound. And you got to think about that. You have to look ahead to what somebody's happiness is going to be with an end project. He also taught me what the definition of a real professional is. So I remember one time he was talking about how one of his interns came to work and said, and wound up mixing this record, and it actually sounded better when the intern mixed it than when he mixed it. And and the kid was saying that, and he's like, you know what? You actually did mix this, and it sounded better than my mix. Kid, you kicked my ass. Kick my ass the other 364 days of the year. Seriously, kick my ass the other 364 days of the year. Kick my ass when I'm sick. Kick my ass when you're sick. Kick my ass when you're having an argument with your wife. Kick my ass when you haven't had sleep for 3 days. Kick my ass when the equipment is not working. Kick my ass when you have a crappy band that you're recording and you have to try to get them to sound good. And kick my ass when the record label executive is bitching at you and telling you that you have to make it sound like this when this sounds like cock and balls, and you have to kind of try to argue and fight with him over how it should sound like this where this is actually good. And that's one of the defining characteristics of a real professional. There are motherboards that I get in that I can't fix, and sometimes I send them back to the customer, and they send them to somebody that fixed it. And you know what, again, and then they'll send me an email like, why the fuck didn't you do this, blah, blah, blah. And I've talked about my 20-minute rule, how I don't like to spend more than 20 minutes on a board because I feel that I won't have time to spend on others. And here's the thing. That one time you figured out a problem that I wasn't able to, you kicked my ass. That's great. Being a professional is not about being able to write better code than Bill Gates. Being a professional is not about being able to run faster than an Olympic sprint runner that one time. Can you do that every single day of the year? Can you kick my ass and figure out what's wrong with the board every single day of the year? Can you figure out what's wrong with a motherboard when your multimeter is giving you improper readings because the batteries are dying and it doesn't have a little low battery alert icon on it? Can you solder properly when the temperature sensor in your hot air station isn't working? Or are you going to screw up and overheat a chip? Or are you going to pull it off and rip off the pads? Can you succeed under a variety of different conditions so you can provide a consistent experience to your client? Because that's what people care about. They don't care about the fact that one little time you were able to make the three-point shot from half court. They want to know, can you consistently make the three-point shot from half court? Because that's the definition of a real professional. And also, above all else, the other thing about the definition of a real professional, if you're somebody out there that reads Slipperman's posts, he does not fit the traditional definition of a professional, meaning somebody who never curses, somebody who never says things that are outlandish, somebody who never challenges the status quo, somebody who comes to work, in a fucking dress shirt and refers to people as sir. One of the things that I love about Slipperman is also how he will call people out he will call people out that he feels are giving advice without the practical real world experience. So a big part of Slipperman is that he really feels that you got to be in the trenches and be doing something every single day to be really offering advice about it. And he will climb down your throat if he feels like you're giving cookie cutter advice and kind of the general best practices advice that you read on the internet without actually trying that shit in the real world. And there was this one post where there's this one recording, and this guy he's a really good technician, but his name is Jim Williams, amazing technician, but he actually records From the credits, you see it's something like once a decade. And he gives some kind of outlandish advice that is totally counter to how Slipperman records music. Slipperman is not a technician, but he's somebody who he's in the studio almost every single day for 30 fucking years recording a new record. And he posts this post, and this is funny stuff, where it says, I admit it. Personally, I take a perverse pleasure coming here on Gear Sluts and lighting your big, bullshitting, digi-key memorizing, chip and cap swapping, ass up like the 4th of July. Because you talk a big fucking game about something you've got actually done little or nothing in as a gainfully employed professional. As far as I can tell, looking far and wide. That being actually making records with any degree of persistency for a living. Love to be proven wrong. No, really. In the meantime, can't wait to see a specific list. And once again, I actually do and have done nothing but rake records for nigh on 30 fucking years. Hundreds of them. Hey, I don't care who believes me or which one of your slew of Soundcraft modding sycophants shows up here to defend your non-existent honor. Anybody can do the research on the internet. That's one of the other funny things. He's always referred to the internet as the internet because of all the sheer bullshit and misinformation you find on it. And find out the truth. No, they probably shouldn't be checking your website for more oblique has worked with credit rhetoric. In the end, you're still at base camp with a sterno stove, a snow tent, and a pair of expensive binoculars and a Mouncer catalog that you're also using as toilet paper. Me, I'm on the mountain giving you the fucking finger. Adjust the focus on those Swarovskis and you tell me, yeah, that's me. That's me waving my temperature shriveled dick at you. Because every time you open your yipper about record making, I know for certain that you don't live up here. And with the weather conditions and all, I certainly can't keep my dick out all day. Now, I'm going to go play on my drums for 2 hours in the far ISO booth in my B room, take a shower, change, and show up 15 minutes late for a 1 p.m. session call because I blew 20 minutes handing your ass to you here. The record, my 7th full length so far this year, is coming out amazing. Hey, it ain't me. The kids know how to artfully conceive and execute their own music. A dogmatic cactus like yourself wouldn't last an hour with this bunch. This is the 3rd record they've made with guys who actually know what the fuck they're doing. They'd kick your gold-bricking ass at the curb with a quickness. Newsflash, Stevie Wonder ain't the only guy who's been known to commit his shoe to somebody's ass. P.S. Just for the record, you do know who I am. You and that nitwit Ethan Wino pressured me into revealing as much. The thread is still there, including your posts, unfortunately for you. The important bits have been quoted by other posters, so you're not going to be able to clean up after the fact. Flat out lie enough on public record, Jim, and you're going to grab yourself. Case in point. Cue the Jim Williams high-speed video op-amp diaper cleaning crew. And it's funny. And he has this, like, one of the things that I learned from Slipperman is you're going to have a lot of people giving you advice when they're actually not as involved in the field as you. They're going to be telling you how you should be doing something when they themselves, again, as he says, are not up on the mountain doing it. So I get a lot of comments and a lot of hate on a lot of these videos from so-called electrical and electronics engineers or people who work in engineering, and they tell me how to do things. And in reality, like, something tells me that you, over the course of your fucking life, have never had to so much as replace an op-amp in an audio amplifier circuit. You've never had to trace down a short circuit on a motherboard. You have never had to do any of this shit. Because I'll get these comments and posts from people that'll be like, you're trying to find a short by injecting voltage? That's unprofessional. That's not the best practice. What you need to be doing is taking a multimeter and measuring resistance to ground at every single point in the circuit that line is on. And then when you have the point that has the least amount of resistance to ground, that's the short. Or you run voltage, you just bear like half a volt through it, and then you measure the millivolts at every single fucking point in the circuit. And it's like motherfucker, okay, cool. You want to measure every single component on this thing? You want to measure every single component and tell me which one it is that's wrong? Be my fucking guest. I will retire off to a desert island. I'll come back in 6 years, and hopefully 6 years from now, you'll be able to tell me if it's in this area or this area that the short is gone, when this area is 0.6 ohms to ground and this area is 0.555599. Like, fucking kidding me. You taught me, Slipperman, you taught me that if I know what I'm doing and my real world practical experience allows me to provide a consistent level of high quality service for my customers, Fuck the rest of the world. Fuck what they think of me. Fuck if they think I'm unprofessional, because I'm probably out there on the mountain accomplishing more than they are. Because while you're spending time telling me how I'm doing everything wrong, I'm spending time actually learning and putting effort in to see what works for me and my clients in the practical real world. You also taught me that I should never care what other people think of me. So I recently did a video on how the biggest rabbit hole to hell in life is caring what other people think of me. And again, when you read posts like that, you realize that this person does not give a shit of a fuck what people think of him. And one of the things with audio engineers is you can read all the crap that all these different people post on the internet and all their arguments. It's when you hear somebody's discography that you realize whether or not they actually know what the fuck they're talking about. And I love heavy metal. I like I like heavy metal music. I like a lot of the different rock music. I love listening to this band like Opeth and Dream Theater and Alice in Chains. And when I hear the albums that he made, I almost kind of wish that Opeth, you could go back in time and have recorded Opeth's first album. Everything sounds clear and big and amazing and beautiful and perfect. That's how you want heavy metal to sound. His music sounds like he's a man who's dedicated to his craft. Slipperman defines a professional as somebody who dedicates themselves to the betterment of their craft, somebody who lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes whatever it is they're seeking to be good at to become practically good at it at the expense of what everybody else thinks. That's a professional. A professional is not somebody who goes, yes, sir, thank you, sir, who uses the appropriate terms, who walks into a room with a suit and a tie and does everything according to strict industry, properly accepted and best practices. He is a person who defines professional as somebody who walks into the room and does what's needed to ensure that the client is happy with the end result. He doesn't even care if the client's going to hate him for the beginning or the middle of it. What he cares about is that at the end of the fucking day, he can hand his clients something that is fucking amazing, and he doesn't care what you think of how he got there. He doesn't care what you think of him, and he redefines what the term professional even means. A professional is not, like, again, people will often use the word professional to try to kind of berate you down. Like, that's not professional. You don't have a G tool? That's not professional. You don't, like, measure shorts like that? That's unprofessional. He does away with that whole idea of caring about the traditional definition of professionalism, and he defines professionalism in a real way. Can I consistently provide something good for my clients using whatever method I've came up with? If I can, I'm a professional. And I don't really give a fuck what you think. So thank you, Slipperman, for setting the record straight from the beginning on about what my goals should be and how little I should care what other people think if what they're saying has nothing to do with my products and what I put out there into the world. You taught me how to do business properly, and you taught me what it means to really care about being a master of your craft, and that I should focus on that and fuck everything else. Thank you. And if any of you people, again, even if you have nothing to do with audio engineering, even if you've never recorded a record in your life, so I've recorded a ton of stuff, like a ton of like full-length kind of albums and stuff like that for other people back when I actually was pursuing that as a profession. And I really benefited from a lot of what I heard there. But even if you are not recording full-length records, even if you're not recording anything at all, and you're not in the recording industry, I strongly suggest that if that site still exists, that you go back and listen to the Mixerman, Aardvark, and Slipperman radio show. Listen to all the radio shows that he's in, because you're going to be able to apply all these little tidbits. You're going to be able to apply all these little ramblings to whatever business you're in. If you're in the service business, you'll be able to apply it to so many different aspects of your life, even if you have nothing to do with audio engineering. So thank you very much, Slipperman. I've never met you. I most likely never will, but you affected my life in a positive way, and I very much so appreciate that. In these videos where I'm showing you troubleshooting and I'm trying to figure out a problem, maybe I fail at figuring out the problem, and I leave that in. Or, for example, the video on the BGA rework station where the solder spool drops onto the switch, turns it off, the chip falls onto the board, and while the board and the chip is still hot, and I leave that in. A lot of that is because of the definition of professionalism that I got from Slipperman. A professional is not somebody that never makes a mistake. A professional does fuck up, but what the professional does is ensures that the product that you deliver is consistently good. Professionalism is not about hiding your flaws. It's not about hiding your mistakes. It's about, at the end of the day, putting out a product that works. So a big part of why I'm totally okay showing you that my door has cardboard covering a hole in it. A big reason that I'm okay showing you when I screw up when I'm soldering something or when I screw up in my diagnosis is because I know that what makes me a real professional is not an absence of flaws. A lot of people say, this is unprofessional, that's unprofessional, your screws hanging off the desk in a magnet, that's unprofessional. This is, well, that's not what makes you unprofessional. So a lot of the manner in which I talk on this channel, a lot of the things that I'm teaching you, I would not be able to take the time to make this the traditional laboratory definition of professional. And I don't care. A lot of the videos out there that are super edited with techno music, they edit it because they're afraid that if you see the warts that you'll think they're unprofessional, and that there's this myth that if you're unprofessional by the traditional definition of professional, that you will get less business. He taught me that that's wrong. I know that that's wrong now at 17,000 subscribers with over 400,000 views a month, and people that want to come out to learn from me and pay me money to learn from me how to do this stuff. I know that that definition of professional is bullshit. I know that Slipperman's was right, but I would not have been motivated to go out there and figure it out for myself without him. And I also, most of the videos in this channel would have never gone up if I thought the traditional definition of professionalism was true. Most of these videos would have never gone up if I didn't get to see that there was somebody in the real world who was successful and good at what they did, even though they had talked about all the things that they talked about, even if they talked about all the things that other people may laugh at or find funny. He never cared what other people would think of his failings or of the things that he did wrong, the same way that I don't care. And it's a good thing that I had that influence to tell me this.